Welcome to Powered by Nyame. I'm your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. On this episode of Powered by Nyame, the topic will be frenemies. Friends who are really and truly enemies, and enemies who try to befriend you to do all sorts of things to you and I and all others who have and will have frenemies. So let's get right into it. First, I want to acknowledge that some of the ideas coming from here and the stories in this episode are not originally mine. They actually come from my new wife, Ithia, or at least I called her Ithia, because through a discussion with her that the idea for this episode came to be. So I want to give her a big shout out, and hopefully she'll check out this episode and she'll, get her flowers and all the credit that is due. That said, let's jump right into it. What are frenemies? Why are there frenemies? And what to do about them? So, let's begin with a story. And I love telling stories. You see, we human beings are storytelling and story-receiving creatures. We love stories, really good stories. So here's a story, hopefully it's good to you as it was to me. And so, for a while, I could not understand why I just could not have a best friend, meaning a brother, a man of African ancestry who I can confide in. You see, I've always wanted to have an older brother. I'm the oldest of 6 children, and so you can sense, why the urge. Nonetheless, at my age, I've not had that older brother because my mom didn't have anyone before me that was male or female. And so I never got that older brother. And I'm still not sure if I have a best friend. I have some very good friends who I can count on, but not sure if I have that best friend that I can confide anything and everything as if that person was my older brother. And it always puzzled me why that's the case. More to the point, I was always puzzled by why do people turn on me or betray me even though I've been very, very good to them. And it never failed. It could be an older person, an elder. It could be my own siblings. It could be, former people for whom I was married to. It could be my own children. It could be my own kinfolks, cousins, brothers, sisters, you name it. And so the list never really mattered in terms of where they came from, whether they were related by blood, birth, marriage, or adoption, or they were simply people that came into my orbit and stuck there for a while. One thing was clear and one thing was consistent. At some point, they would do something or some things that would be an act of betrayal or undermining, and they would simply be bold-faced about it. They would not accept that there was, in fact, an error or mistake, which, by the way, is a clue that you have in front of me. More to that in a moment. And so I always wondered why this phenomenon circled me. And what I've come away with, I'll share with you towards the end of this video. But now I'll say this much. You see, frenemies, they operate in 2 different worlds. I'll break it down this way as my Thea shared with me. So this is where her ideas come in here. You see, frenemies are really the physical human flesh agents that are dispatched or sent by the spiritual version of that being. Remember, and I keep emphasizing this in most of my videos, we are spiritual beings. We are. Stop breathing and you'll find out the answer to that question. By the way, it's not a disclaimer to go and do so. I'm meaning hypothetically. We are spiritual beings, right? Just that we are having a human experience, a human body, but we are spiritual beings. And so we have a spiritual version to us in the spiritual or immaterial world that is adjacent to this physical material world that we live through and live in. And so our frenemies are really enemies that exist in the spiritual world for whom we have battles with. Yes, ongoing battles, sometimes protracted battles. And in order to get an advantage or edge on us, what that spiritual enemy or enemies will do, they will dispatch their physical version of themselves, or the physical version of themselves that exists in this human world, will be relayed instructions, assignments, messages, like reconnaissance, if you will, in the armed forces. And that person will seek to friend you. Ever wonder why and how you meet people that become your friends? And you might think it's coincidence. In many cases, in fact, I would argue in all cases, there are no coincidences. If you meet someone in the gym, someone in the supermarket, someone at the, on the streets, at the basketball court, or where have you, the beauty salon, the barbershop, there are no coincidences in terms of the persons who you encounter, and then you think you are befriending them, but in fact they've been sent and dispatched to befriend you. But indeed, these individuals are not friends at all. They're your enemies on the spiritual side. And on the spiritual side, the story doesn't stop there, according to my fear, and from what I've gathered, it seems to be very reliable. On the spiritual side, that person or persons on the spiritual side, right, who has a physical human version of themselves who are trying to friend you, and I'll share with you why they're trying to friend you in a moment, who are trying to friend you, they do so at the behest or at the command of their master, of their overseer, meaning there are other spiritual beings and figures for whom those spiritual version of that person is under. Think of it as a child and adult. And adults have life and death power over children, particularly their own children. And so what an adult says or commands or instructs, children will more likely do it, particularly smaller children, right, who have not yet learned to be resistive or to say no, or I don't care, or take the consequences of no and I don't care. And so think of a small child and adult. That small child is a spiritual version of that enemy. And they have a guardian, they have an overseer, they have an adult that is instructing them, because you see, that spiritual version of the person, they want an advantage, because you will go home, as we say, go back to the village. And when you go back to the village and go to the spiritual side of things, you will be at a disadvantage. You see, if the spiritual version of that person destroys you in the physical human world, and by destroy, I mean literally destroy you, but I also mean weakens you, puts you out of commission, you are paralyzed, you are an invalid, you are have no will to live anymore, no desire for life anymore. That's what I mean by destruction. So destruction can mean a number of things. You are so weak and burnt out and so distraught, right? And that may physically lead to your physical demise. If that were to happen on the spiritual side, that person, that enemy, right, by befriending you and then destroying you either little by little or in one or two blows, they gain a major advantage in the fight against you, because the fight doesn't stop. And this is what I want to make clear. The fight does not stop. When you go home, the fight continues. But when you go home, your fight or your tools, your weapons, you have little to any. You are at a great disadvantage, because on the physical human side, you are destroyed by the friend, which is really the physical version of that spiritual person or that spiritual being that was dispatched to destroy and ruin you. And so it is crucially important to identify what are the signs, right, of a frenemy. What are the signals or the clues to say, hey, what should I really have this person in my orbit, in my life? Here are a few clues that you can take. And then I'll end with a story, and then I'll wrap things up for this episode. Clue number one, that person goes out of their way to be your friend. Yes, I said it. And so you may think it's by coincidence that you randomly met this person at the gym, because you like to work out. And it's early in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, whenever you go to the gym, it doesn't really matter. This person may see you once or twice. They may say hi at first. They may say, oh, you're using this machine. It's great, thank you. So they're pleasant, right? And then, they may be of the same gender. So if you're a woman, they may be female. If you're a man, they're male. and they may strike up a conversation one time, right? They may even work out with you, and you exchange numbers, and you may start to talk about your family life. You know, you have children or you don't, or you're single or you're married, or you work here or you work there. All these details come out with you really fully realizing that you may indeed be feeding the tentacles of that frenemy that's seeking to what? Sink the tentacles into you, grab a hold, and destroy you from inside out. And so you may meet up with that person to hook up. You may go to, the movies, or you may go play ball, or you may go some other activities. And then you say, hey, this person's cool, it's not bad. And then you meet some of their families, their sisters, may meet their children. And soon you have someone you think you can count on. You call them and say, hey, thank you for listening to me, because frenemies always listen, because they're not really listening. They will pretend to give you an air so that you feel comfortable. And the more comfortable you are, the more your guards are down. The more the guards are down, the more they can sink those tentacles one by one into the deepest part of your being. Not simply your skin, not simply your epidermis. It will cut past the layers of your flesh, cut past your organs, and start to sink them teeth in. And the more that person interacts with you, the more they build confidence, and the more you begin to see yourself that, hey, this person's really there for me. They're always there for me. This person I can count on. Whenever I need, I can call or text, and that person is ready and willing for me. They're always there to give a handout, even advice, and say, hey, if you need something, I'm here for you. These are signs. Now, you may say, well, this may be a kind person. It may be, but you have to be able to see through people like glass. Because indeed, you might think you had a chance encounter, a chance meeting with that person, but there's no chances. That person, that frenemy, was meant to meet you at that gym. And that frenemy was indeed seeking to what? Get into a conversation with you, lower your guard just enough for you to exchange numbers, just enough to exchange details, and to continue to what? Build the relationship whereby they're always there. That's a sign. Now, I'm there for my friends and close people to me, but I can't be always there because I have my own responsibilities. I have my own life. I have my own family to tend to. But that person is almost always there. That is a deep sign. Another sign and clue of a frenemy is that this person will often want to pretend to fight your battles for you, or to say that they're going to help fight the battles for you. This is very crucial, because all battles that are yours, they're yours to fight. Not to say someone can't be supportive, but their battles are not yours and your battles are not theirs. And so when the person is eager to fight your fights for you, not only will they give you ammunition, they'll even carry it out for you. Be very wary of that person, that frenemy. Third clue to this frenemy. Another clue to this frenemy is that this person will not only give advice, will not only offer, money or other resources to quote unquote help you in your time of need, because they'll always be there in your time of need. They'll make sure of that. This person will, once you begin to see them as a brother or a sister, begin to sort of tell you in a very coded language, in a very sneaky way, tell you what to do. So it moves from advice to instructions, to even commands, right? Because they feel now that you are a brother or a sister to them, or a sister-like or a brother-like person to them. Be very careful, because by then, the tentacles are already sunk. How deep? That varies, but they're already sunk. They're already past the layers of your skin. But you can still do something about it. So this is what you can do. First, evaluate all relationships around you. Ask them a simple question. Does this person add or debit to who I am and what I'm about? Do they add value? And I don't mean monetary value or things value. I mean the value that counts. That is, do they add love value to who I am? Right? Or do they debit? Second question you ask yourself. Why is this person almost always available whenever I'm in need? And even when I'm not in need, that person is eager, sometimes over eager, to be there. And this person may have their own families. Third question to ask yourself: how well do you really know them and their lives? Other than what they tell you or share with you. How well do you know that person's family? Do your own digging. Do your own research. Because that person did not come by accident or coincidence into your life. And fourth and final advice as to discernment, to figure out who's a frenemy or not, is how does that person respond to you when it comes to you being with a significant other that person doesn't like or that person doesn't, want around? Are they supportive? Are they hands-off? Or do they have a view? Or do they have a position? Or do they have, whether sneakily or not? More than likely, that frenemy will want you almost all for yourself, and therefore will find it almost like jealous-like fashion that you are with anyone else, male or female, or both, depending upon whatever your persuasion may be or your appetite may be for men or women. Ask yourself these key questions and do it outside of their presence. Do it when you're sober. I mean sober in a number of ways. Emotionally sober, because you can't do this while you're emotional. You have to be stoic. Do this while you're spiritually sober. You can't be under influence of any drug or substance. Spiritually sober. And lastly, do this in a quiet space where you can hear yourself, your real and true self. And then cut off those ties as soon as you can. And when you cut off, watch the reaction. Watch the reaction, right? Watch the reaction. Watch the reaction. If it was really a friend, it will be one reaction. If it was a real friend of me, it's going to be a completely different one. Watch for the reaction. And so here's the story. And so I asked myself that question about why these people, it seems, always, betraying me, right? And what I figured out so far is this. These people were not meant to be friends or to be supportive. These are people for whom I have fights and battles with on the spiritual side of things, ongoing battles, then, now, and in the near future when it's my time to go home to the village. Thus far, each of them have been defeated. That's how it goes. Because I am very clear when someone is trying to, take me out of my destiny, take me away from my path. I don't play with that. And that is, by the way, the bonus sign of someone being a frenemy. Someone's trying to take you off your path, take you out of your destiny. That's a frenemy, right? That is an enemy trying to befriend you, to destroy you, to gain an advantage on the spiritual side, for which you, soon or later, will find yourself, and it will not be pretty for you. It will not be pretty at all, right? And so, this has been another episode of Powered by Nyame. I've been your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you another episode. In the meantime, drop your questions and comments and ideas in the comment section below. Until then, stay well.